My name is Seth Christensen. This is the Got Any Cows podcast. As Jonathan LaRue says, I may not know anything about anything else, but I do know a lot about cows.
You know cows.
All right, well, I am here on another episode of the Got Any Cows podcast with Lauren LaRue, which would be John's wife. If you could tell us a little bit about you. Introduce yourself, Lauren LaRue.
Oh, okay. My name is Lauren. John and I have been married for 12 years now. Basically just been enjoying living this country dream that is not something that I ever thought I would be doing since I grew up on the other side of the country in the Midwest. But now that we have kids here and just this is the career, we're just loving it and enjoying this lifestyle. So here at the ranch, I do the registrations and kind of coordinate the bull leasing program. And yeah.
So I've known you for better than 12 years now.
Yeah.
So let's see, how long did you and John date before you got married?
Okay, so we met the summer after my sophomore year of high school, I think. He had come back from his mission and was living in Logan. And so I went to junior year of high school, senior year of high school. When I graduated, I moved to college, and then I would come home periodically and we'd go on dates because we were just kind of friends / brother, sister prior to that.
Grocery provider, as John tells the story.
Yeah, apparently he bought me groceries all the time. I don't remember that.
The John version of stories is always way entertaining.
Yes, I know. I'm trying to keep it real of what really happened. So that summer, when I came home from college, we dated that summer. And then, oh gosh, that was whatever the summer months are. And then there was a little breakup period. But then we started dating, I think, again in September. And then we were married the following June.
Okay, gotcha. So you guys basically started. So John would have ended up being my roommate right in that window.
It was when he moved back
to Logan.
Yeah.
So basically, you guys picked it back up, right?
Yeah.
So John and I started my freshman year at Utah State in August and had a different roommate. And then John came in shortly after and bought his contract.
Yes.
And that was when you guys picked it back up. I wasn't even putting two and two together as to timeline of events.
Yeah, because we had moved back and we were dating seriously, and my parents were like, well, if you're going to get married, you should probably live in the same town, which is...
Right, that's fair.
That's fair.
Yep.
And so he needed to find a place to live, and so found that
there.
contract, And so then I met you guys because I would come hang out at the apartment and...
Right.
You guys would be playing your Star Wars board game.
Fantastic. Which is the coolest, by the way.
Yeah.
It was great. So that's interesting. So you and I would have met at that point in time in September. That would have been of 11. So that would have been right after I graduated high school. And then you guys were dating, and then I was there right through all of it. I was there through, John was sweating bullets about your proposal, like all of it, like all the for forever. I mean, I think we plotted that for like 2 months.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, I've heard the stories, and I hear it was pretty stressful.
Yeah,
it was great for me, but
it worked out really good. Yeah.
And you came to our wedding, and then you left for your mission, I think, very shortly after that.
Yeah. So you guys got married June 12th. Yeah. So I left, I think, on like the 14th or something.
Oh, wow.
I mean, it was like right there, and went on my mission. So yeah. And anyway, so we've known each
so
other
we go way back.
Yeah, forever.
I've known you longer than I've known Haley.
True.
Yeah.
I see, because you and Haley wouldn't have met until about when Haley and I got married. I think.
I think your wedding was the first time I met her.
First time you met her. Yeah. So look at that.
And the rest is history.
Yeah. Well, and you're the one that gets all of my like those solid mid 90s, because see, John's an 80s baby.
Yeah, he's old. He's too old. Haley's too young.
Yeah. So anytime I reference, like, I don't know, what would have been basically all of the different anything, kind of punk rock type stuff, and or like, I think you caught like a Digimon reference once, which is good.
We sang the Pokemon song once.
Yeah. So like, if I'm looking for a solid mid 90s vibe, Haley's too young and John is too old, but you and I are just the right age to where we understand the important things. So since, let's see, you and John got married in 12. And then you guys came here to the ranch in 18.
Yes.
So walk us through what it was like, I guess, when you first got here and all the different things you helped with, meaning functionally everything. And then what it's looked like, I guess, from then till now, as far as the things you've done.
So when we first moved here, we were living in our camp trailer, just right over there.
Quality.
Super fun, because there was other people still living in the house. You guys had purchased it. There were some renters.
Right.
So we were kind of waiting for that transition. And it was basically me and John and you and Haley.
That was it.
And so fencing was us, moving cows was us. We have so many fond memories of that. Every time I get asked to come out and help now, I'm always like, this is so much fun. Like, this is great. I love fencing. And then I remember that I did my time. So now it can be enjoyable and I didn't have to do it all the time. But so we spent a lot of time fencing, a lot of time moving cows. I've never been strong enough to handle the chute, so I've never done that. But now that we have the silence, I could,
in good shape.
I know, I need to learn how to do that. But so it was kind of just us, all four of us going hard all the time. And then babies came, and I remember strapping Lydia to me and doing the fencing.
Some
and
quality pictures.
We have a lot of pictures of little Lydia wrapped in a coat out in the barn and lots of things. Let's see, then we moved into the house and you guys moved in, and I think we still kind of did that tag team for a while. I don't remember when we started bringing other people in, but eventually, as more babies came in, it was harder to get out. And so then we kind of switched to office work, and Haley and I kind of picked off of you, and you would give us things to do. And I think mostly started with me doing the bull lease program. And we had moved for a year. So we were not living at the ranch. We were helping take care of an elderly gentleman, and I kind of just did the bull leasing remote. And at that point, I still knew nothing about cows and bulls. And so it was pretty much me asking you 100 questions a day and then trying to coordinate with people and schedules and all this kind of stuff as I was still learning. But eventually, after time, I started to learn quite a bit about bulls. And then the joke is that, little Chicago girl knew more about bull EPDs than these ranchers that have been doing it for 100 years. And so that was kind of I was proud of myself for that. But and I would talk to my friends about that, and they'd be like, I don't know what any of those words mean. But I'd be like, well, let me tell you. Calving ease. But anyways, and then kind of added more. And then it was kind of sporadic here and there. Hey, can you do this registration? Hey, can we do this? We didn't really have quite a system down. And within the last year, I think, is when we really kind of pinpointed responsibilities and things. Last 2 years, maybe. And so now mostly focus on registrations, sending in DNA samples, and then still doing the bull leasing.
Yep. And, I guess to look back through some of the work, like you mentioned there, I mean, we all did everything. You know what I mean? Right at the beginning there, it was just everything was on fire all the time. So it's just kind of, you do whatever needs done. And between John and I and you and Haley and, just chase it and make it all happen. And that's kind of the same setting we were in with registrations, especially, was that it was always, in that kind of a setting where everything was so on fire all the time, like it was always the last thing to get done.
And last minute too.
It's
like, hey, this animal just sold.
Yes, we've got to complete the registrations. Well, run into issues of like already got the animal sold and got to complete the registrations, or waiting on DNA results, which aren't fast, or animal's already gone, but we're trying to register it, so we don't have DNA on hand, and and then my system, which is a really loosely used term.
For how organized you are. And OCD, it was surprising at the lack of.
It was pretty bad. Well, I was chatting with Haley. Haley and I did an episode about accounting. And accounting and registrations both landed in that bucket of like, I've never been really proficient at it, and so it was always the bucket of like, I don't know what to do with this. Like, I'm throwing it away. Like it goes. I have like these two I call them receiving drawers, like in the my desk there. And if I don't really know what to do with it immediately, like it just goes in there until further notice.
And if you ignore it long enough, it disappears.
It just gets buried in the receiving drawer. Because I'm like, I don't even know what to do with this. And that's kind of where like registrations and accounting were both about the same. Where like accounting was like, okay, I know I need to make sales because we're going to run out of money if I don't. But like I don't know how to keep track of all the books. And same deal with the registrations. It's like I know they need completed, but I mean, until it's an absolute have to, i.e., somebody's like, hey, where's the papers on this papered animal you sold me? I was like, we'll deal with it later. What I mean? Like we got cows to feed, cows to fence, whatever else. And so, I mean, I had like all of the DNA samples were like random tail hair chunks
in a drawer,
in a plastic baggie, in all sorts of different like grocery bags from a million different days when they happened to be in a chute and we just hoped it was in there and that we could maybe find it. And then we dig back through a similarly large and disorganized stack of like ET records of like, okay, I hope we can find this in here.
Those
and then correlate the two and spit out.
And we tried for papers. A minute. I remember I would come out when you were running animals through the chute and I would receive the tail hairs so that I would have them and know where they were. But even then it was, I couldn't come out all the time because of kids and they'd get lost in, somewhere and they're all black and brown and you need to write numbers on them. And it was a little stressful sometimes, but we worked through that. And then it kind of, and it was hard too, because sometimes then you would take on things again. If someone would have a kid or someone was sick, responsibilities would then go back onto you. And then it would come back to someone and I'd be like, I don't even remember how to do this. So then we'd have to learn it over again. And so kind of figuring out that process and procedure, now that we have it down, it's it's so smooth now, but before it was a mess.
Well, and I think it's kind of the same for most everybody. I mean, as I talk to a lot of people, registrations quite often, I mean, they don't get done, or it ends up being a mess, or it ends up, can't get it done with this association versus that association, or it's just really delayed, or it's such a big headache. Most people just throw up their hands and just don't keep up the papers. Like I've heard the phrase, these are papered animals, we just haven't kept up the papers on them, like more times than I can count. And I get it. You know what I mean? Like it's a job. You know what I mean? Like you invest a significant amount of time into making it happen. And there's a lot of moving pieces. There is the DNA sample component, there's the ET records component, there's the different breed associations component, and then just the physical work of putting it all together, getting the right info to the right places in each association, each of which has their own process. And that can be a challenge for sure. So, hey guys, this is Seth Christensen with the Got Any Cows podcast. I wanted to give you guys a personal invitation to check out our website. That's gotanycows.com. Gotanycows.com is going to take you to the Christensen Genetics website. On that website, we've got a couple of different things that I would like you to take advantage of. One of the first tabs that you'll see there across the top on the Christensen Genetics website is the podcast tab. You can find any and all of the episodes that have been released there along with full video. The next tab over would be the Learn tab. The point of everything on this tab would be to help educate somebody that maybe doesn't have cattle yet, help you prepare to be ready to own your own cows. We help people on a regular basis establish new herds, build a quality set of cattle. The Learn tab is all about being ready for cattle ownership. The next tab that you'll see on the top of the website there is the Build Your Herd tab. This is going to have our current sale inventory on it. It'll have everything from semen and embryos to females, bulls, all of the above. It's all there. There's going to be pictures there. There's going to be registration links there. There's going to be pricing there. All of the live animals on christensengenetics.com come with free delivery anywhere in the continental United States included. So if you decide to purchase any of these animals, all you have to do is click the click to buy button that is included on each of those listings. That'll send an email to us. We'll send an invoice to you. Once you pay that invoice, we'll go ahead and schedule a brand inspection, a health inspection, and shipment to your ranch. And then after that, the next tab is the Run Your Ranch tab. So this would be where you can find information on what to do when you receive those animals, vaccination protocols, nutrition recommendations, calving recommendations, shipping, marketing, anything that you might need to do once you own the cattle. So the whole point of this website at large of gotanycows.com is meant to help you prepare to own cows, purchase the best cows you can possibly get, and then know what to do with them. So I'd invite you guys to take advantage of that resource. We built it for you. It's there to use. Please go ahead and visit gotanycows.com. Be sure to subscribe at the bottom of the page and you'll receive updates as things are added to the site. Again, that's gotanycows.com and we'll see you there. We've just been talking about how it was a dumpster fire relative to the registrations were a mess. And then now they're not, but obviously there's been, I guess, a process between point A and point B. So walk us through kind of what the process looks like now between what John does, what I do, what you do, and how that turns into completed papers in a timely fashion.
Yes. Well, now it's beautiful and easy. So basically when a calf is born, John goes out, or whoever is here, gets the DNA sample on the calf, gets them tagged, and then all of those DNA samples come in an Allflex tags box. And so as soon as there's 10 completed, he brings them inside to me and I can start the process. And so as soon as the calf is born, you also get that information. And Seth masterfully puts everything in a spreadsheet for me. So I just access the spreadsheet. I take the DNA sample, look up what kind of animal it is or what breed it is. And then I know which association to be doing that work on the website. And yeah, I can just pull all of the information off of the spreadsheet and then print out what I need to print out, attach the DNA samples, and mail it in. And basically from there, that's pretty much it. Makes it really easy. It makes it a lot easier that there's not as many hands in the pot for the same thing. Each person has their role, and makes it go really nice and smooth.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, looking at it, the way that I did do it, that I would not recommend would be, waiting until it's like it's a have to, or like it's a hurry, or it's a rush, or, putting it off, because it does take time. And there's time for the DNA processing that's required. There's time to input everything, print it all off, and whatever else. It's not always fast. You know what I mean? As far as from the day you do your job until the day that the paperwork comes through, there's lag between those 2 points in time. So yeah, like Lauren mentioned, John pulls the DNA. I put stuff in a spreadsheet. Lauren compiles it all, gets it where it needs to go. So how many different breed associations have you worked with at this point?
So we've done Akaushi.
Yep.
American Wagyu, Australian Wagyu, Angus, Hereford, Charolais.
Yeah.
I think that's it.
6.
Yeah.
Yep. Very good.
I have my favorites as well.
They are definitely not all created equal as far as the ease of use. There's no doubt about that. Yeah. So what's it like as far as I guess joining those associations, or what does that process look like to, I guess, even be able to register an animal? I would assume the first step is joining the association.
Most of the time you log into the website, or you go to the website, there's a login option, there's a sign up option. I know most of your information at this point. So I just plug that in. If there's anything Seth needs to do, he can, but that gets us signed up. Usually they'll send some kind of information packet. I usually have to have you authorize me as a user, because I'm doing a lot of the communicating with them. But it's really easy. Then you usually pick like what package you want. Do you want to just be able to register animals? Do you want different things? Some of them you pay for. I'm not sure if all of them you pay for or not. But pretty easy there. And then each one varies a little bit in how registration goes. Most of them, it's all pretty much the same. You have to enter, birthday, sire, dam, all that kind of information. Some require more information than others. Some need to know, the coat color. Some need to know different things about it. Other ones, it's just like birthday, name, registered name, things like that, dam, sire, and then the DNA information, like the barcode. Yeah. But other than that, it's pretty easy, pretty smooth sailing. Yeah.
So historically, we have done some Hereford, we've done some Charolais, and things like that. As of right now, we really just work with 2 breeds. It's just specifically Angus and then Akaushi, but Akaushi touches the Akaushi Association and the American Wagyu Association and the Australian Wagyu Association. And so with our animals that we have born here, if they are a polled animal or naturally hornless, all of those go through the Akaushi Association. If they are a horned full-blood animal, they can go through 1, 2, or all 3 of the other associations. So I guess walk us through the process, starting with Angus, which is what we've worked with for the longest. What does the process look like with Angus? And I guess what would be some things that are distinct to working with the Angus Association? What does the timeline look like? Just different notes on the process there.
I would say timeline-wise, most of them are pretty close in, 2 to 6 weeks, depending on if you're needing different kinds of DNA ordered, things like that. Angus is really user-friendly. I've been happy with using their website for lots of different things. But yeah, basically get the DNA sample, pull the information off the spreadsheet. Basically consists of, dam, sire, registration numbers, their registered name that you want, a little bit of information about calving, things like that you can add if you want. And then you pay for the registration, and if you need to get an AI certificate as well, I try to get those called immediately just so that's in the system as soon as it processes, then they can just pull it from the system. But really easy, really user-friendly. Angus Association is always good to talk to on the phone too. If I have any questions, I can call them up. They're very helpful. But yeah, then just sending everything in. You print the receipt. It has the order number. Send it in, and then I'm done from there. And then they, through their website, they email you, let you know when a registration is complete, things like that. So Angus has always been really pretty smooth sailing. Anytime there's hiccups with any of them, it's only usually because like either the dam or sire information is incorrect, or maybe we didn't own the animal prior to trying to register it, or per their date that they had. And so just needing to trace back things, but never really any too huge of hurdles that we've had to deal with, I don't think. So.
Right. And a couple things that'd be unique to Angus, like you mentioned, AI certificates. So AI certificates with the Akaushi and or the Wagyu are non-existent.
Which is great.
Not a thing, which is great.
Yeah. Not that it's a hard step, but it's one less step.
Right. Exactly. Yep. And the other thing I guess it'd be distinct is with Angus, you can register them without DNA. Whereas in Akaushi and or Wagyu, they require DNA.
Yeah.
And so the Angus, it's interesting, just looking at how each of them works and just getting a feel for all of them registration-wise, because Angus is probably the very fastest of all of them as far as from the day we submit to the day we have paperwork done. They'd be the fastest. The fact that they don't require DNA, especially if you do a non-DNA registration,
it's like next day almost. It's very quick.
Very fast. Yep. Yeah, it's a day, maybe two at most. Usually, I think it would be next day if we already have the AI cert. It may take 2 days if we need to get the AI cert. And so very, very fast. And the AI certificates, I guess for anybody that isn't familiar with those, are basically just a charge with Angus bulls with an AI sire. If semen is sold on a bull and just used in a commercial setting, meaning a non-registered setting, that's the only price they ever pay. There's no additional upcharge. There's no added fee. There's no added cost. There's no added nothing. Whereas if you register the resulting offspring, so you use the same bull, but you used him in a registered setting, so you're producing a more valuable calf, there's an added charge, and the association makes some dollars there. The breeder makes some dollars there. The owner makes some dollars there, that kind of a thing. And so it does slow it down a hair, and you have to get that from wherever the semen came from, or whatever semen stud carries that bull. And so, for example, ABS or Select Sires, or
mostly
Gen
bigger
X.
companies. Every now and then I'll have to call a specific ranch,
Right.
But most of the time we're using bulls that are in those bigger places.
Yep. And so a little different in that sense. So they'd be the very quickest. And then if you look at Akaushi and registering an Akaushi animal, what is distinct about that process as far as things that you do when you're working with the Akaushi Association that are different from whenever you're processing registrations elsewhere?
Sure, Akaushi's really nice. I don't even have to go on the website. I just send a spreadsheet with the information that they require, which is basically the animal's DNA barcode number, their registered name that you want, sire and dam information, their color, their coat, and if they're horned or polled. And then I print that spreadsheet. And then also they have an order form that you fill out, what type of sample you're sending in, how many you're sending in, and if you want, like, what kind of testing you want done.
Right.
And then you send that in with the sample, and that one's really nice. And so I just send those in. I don't even have to log in or anything. Send that to the address on there, and then they process it and email you the information. So that one's really quick and easy, and I really like the Akaushi Association.
Yes. Yeah, no, absolutely. Shout out to our friends at the Akaushi Association.
They make it very nice.
Oh, yeah, well, it is. It's designed to make life easy.
Yeah, and they also are great answering the phone as well. Always get to talk to someone, always very helpful.
Yeah, no, really, really enjoy working with the Akaushi Association, and it is, we don't have to input information a pile of different places. We don't have to pay a whole fleet of different invoices. We don't have to figure out systems and whatever else. It's not slow, it's not cumbersome, it's not overly expensive. Like, it's quick, it's cost effective, and they're there to help.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They're there to find
they're
a way
excited
to get
about it too. I love calling them because they're always like, "Oh, great, you had," and it's really fun talking to them because they're excited, and I think excited for the breed expansion and just everything. Yes. They want people to join, and it's cool.
Right. Well, and I'm excited about, even looking at the last Akaushi convention, the Akaushi Association sponsored an auction and let members consign to it. And we sold a $30,000 heifer pregnancy, and that was really exciting.
It was cool.
And we really enjoyed the setting there and enjoyed their work. And so anyway, shout out to those people and their effort.
Yeah, they do a great job.
And work that they put in. Jumping to the American Wagyu Association, which would be the other association we do a bunch of registrations with. What is distinct about that process as far as how that one works relative to Angus or Akaushi?
Sure. The layout of it is kind of similar to a spreadsheet that you're inputting the information, kind of just data entry. I would say that one was a little bit more of a learning curve. There's just a little bit more steps to that one on their website. Now that I have it down, it's easy. It's no big deal. There was just a little bit more of it wasn't quite as simple, Right. Yep. But yeah, just inputting the information, and then you choose which orders you want and things like that, and then you print the form, and then you send that in with the DNA sample as well. So similar information that's required, just a few more steps to get there.
Right. Yep. And I with the American Wagyu Association, that's where most of our our horn full bloods end up registered at. And it helps keep some market doors open. There's some people that request specifically an American Wagyu Association paper. So we're grateful for that and appreciative of that. It is probably the slowest and most expensive of
Takes
all.
a little bit more time.
I mean, we've worked with a lot of breed registries, and there's multiple steps where you're going to get invoiced. There's multiple steps where you're going to have to pay that invoice before the thing moves forward.
Yeah.
There's multiple steps where we have to personally input all of the data versus having anybody do it on the other end.
Yeah.
All of which is fine. You know, and again, obviously we're not here at all to just be like, man, these are all things that are tough or hard or whatever. Yeah. But that is, I guess, for anybody that's looking at these breed registries or understanding what they are and what you're signing up for if you go to work with them. Realistically, what you could do with the Angus Association is way faster than any of the above, because if you went non-DNA, because you don't have to DNA everything. If you go Akaushi, they're going to be really helpful and pretty cost effective. If you go AWA, that's fine and well, and we do plenty of it, and we want to provide that service and are grateful for what the AWA does. But I think it's important, if somebody's going to get into that, they understand this is going to be the slowest option, and it is going to be the most expensive option.
Sure.
And so there's that end of it. But excited about some of the things that the American Wagyu Association is doing with some progeny testing and stuff they have coming up. We've got one of our studs entered to be tested there, so hopefully be able to get some good hard data back from them and appreciate their work on that end of things. So the Australian Association, this one is new. We just barely jumped into it. What has that looked like working with the Australian Wagyu Association?
I do want to say really quick, even with the American Wagyu, also great on the phone. I've probably called them when I was first learning the system. I probably called the first 5 times I did it and said, can you walk me through this again? Can you walk me through this again? And they were probably thinking, why didn't you write this down? But I just needed to do it, with them on the phone, and super helpful, always really willing to help and walk through those steps. So, and they also are, the last I talked to them, streamlining some of the billing services. So be able to just take care of it all at one time instead of having to wait for those invoices. So that will be really nice.
That'll be way better. That'll be I am glad to see them making progress, because I'm like, I want to continue to work with them, but it would be nice if it was faster and cheaper.
Yes. Yes, as with everything. But Australian, I've only done one set with them, and also, again, wonderful to work with, wonderful to talk to on the phone, very helpful. It's a spreadsheet as well, a Google Doc or an Excel spreadsheet that they share with you, and you enter the information and then share it back to them. And so, again, you don't have to do much on the website. You're just accessing that spreadsheet, and then you're entering the same information that you had. The only thing different really is just if one of the columns is, if it had a registration number with a different association, you include that to make sure that they're making sure it's the same animal. And then I believe it's the Akaushi Association that will send samples to them. If you've already submitted your DNA sample to that association, they will forward either the results or the sample to them, so you don't have to do another sample if it's, processed correctly and everything.
Right.
So that makes it really nice.
Yep. Yeah, and that is one important thing, I guess, for people to understand too, paperwork-wise. If an animal is already papered at the American Wagyu Association, that will transfer over to the Australian Association and or over to the American Akaushi Association, but the inverse is not true. Okay. And so if we have one that is registered first, and I should say the inverse is not always true, meaning there can be animals that are registered elsewhere that then qualify for the American Wagyu. But the American Wagyu Association, if they're registered there, you can easily get them moved into the other breed registries as well. So, and I guess that'd be one thing to talk through from my end of it. And the reason that we engage with all of those different associations is it's the value that's added. Like if the value that's added wasn't more than the cost and the time and whatever involved to get those papers, we wouldn't do it. It wouldn't make sense. But this is the difference. I mean, with all of the work that I do with genetics and marketing, and all the work that John does physically getting these embryo calves made and fed and cared for, and the whole team that works with him outside, and then all the work that you do getting them registered, and then Haley does managing the accounting and the website, it requires all of that to be able to support these families here on this ranch. I mean, if we only produced the average calf that sold for the average value that was sold as a commodity without things like registration papers, there's no way to feed my family here. There's no way to feed your and John's family here. And so, I mean, I am certainly grateful for the work that you put in to generate that registration paper, but then the value that these associations provide through that paperwork, you know, that's the difference between us being able to make a living at it and not.
And it's 5 to 10 extra minutes, depending on how many, you know, animals. If I have a whole list, it takes more time, but it's not that much more time to put in to increase the value of the animal to make it worth it. So
yeah, and that would be my invitation to anybody that's into registered cattle, and especially if you're kind of at that stage. I'd like to think I'm not the only one that's made a mess of it, you know, or had problems with it historically. And so I would just invite people to kind of get a system put together, you know, and just figure out like, hey, this is what we're doing and how we're doing it, because there is, I mean, it can be, depending on the association and a host of other factors, but it can be anywhere from a couple of weeks to a couple of months from the time you start until the paper is done, ready to go, everyth's put together. And it does add some valuable info. You know, if you have parentage that doesn't quite line up, and now we know, okay, these animals are bred different than we thought they were, or the horn-polled status, you know, that can, on those Akushi animals, change the value of the calf, you know, whether it's polled or whether it's not. And just knowing and identifying some of these things, and then things like having, you know, the Akushi or the Wagyu Association and or the Australian Wagyu, if it's one more door that's open because that's what somebody says is, hey, I want those papers, and that allows us to sell there versus not, then that's worth doing.
Absolutely.
And that's why we do it. So looking at, I guess, your process day to day now, Lauren, as it comes to registrations, and or the bull leasing program and your work you do at large, any hurdles in particular that you've had that you're like, man, it would have been helpful to be aware of this particular challenge I've run into in advance, and or tips or tricks or ideas or thoughts that you'd maybe throw out there?
I would say the biggest thing is just making sure there's not too many hands in the pot. If too many people are trying to do it, just knowing, hey, did you get this one done? Where's this paper for this? You know, it just becomes a mess. I think having that be one person's job is really nice. That's been really helpful. Your spreadsheet is the most helpful thing probably, because then I don't have to go digging through a million papers everywhere, asking you 100 questions, searching through records, because that was one of the biggest things is those ET animals, those papers. I just, half the time I just didn't even know what I was reading. I don't know what any of this means. And so just having it all there for me to just pull from makes it really super easy. Organization is big with this kind of stuff, because you don't want stuff to fall through the cracks. So that's probably the biggest tip. Hiccups, really, I wouldn't say there's really any, because it just is so streamlined. It just comes in. We do it. I don't really have too many. The only thing that's kind of like, oh, dang it, is when, you know, a parentage was wrong, or an animal came in that, you know, we didn't do immediately. And so then we need to look through some stuff. But again, that happens so rare now that I don't really have a lot of.
I might actually, just as you mentioned, you know, the spreadsheet, you know, because we've kind of just put that together because we've worked with 6 different breed associations and kind of figured out exactly what needs to be on there. I guess I'll just list off so that somebody's aware. Anybody that's listening that is in the like, man, this is really a struggle. I mean, it's just a series of columns is all it is, and then we fill it out as each calf is born. But I'll tell people what's on my spreadsheet, because if you have all these things logged the day the baby is born, it is so much easier.
So nice,
I mean, we've done animals that they're 2, 3, 4, 5 years old, and now we're digging way back. Can you find that paper? Can you find that tail hair? Did we ship this? Do we have a sample? You know, I mean, and it's such a mess. It's such a nightmare. So my recommendation for anybody dealing with registered cattle, period, is have all these things recorded the day of, and then whether you're going to do it or your wife's going to do it or somebody like Lauren's going to do it, whoever's going to do it, get all this info to them and a DNA sample, and then it's not been a big deal. But you need to know their tag, their date of birth, sex, whether it's a bull or a heifer, if it's an embryo transfer calf, and or I guess whatever cow calved it, the recip ID. So
which I haven't had to use the recip information for any of the websites.
So
you can, but it's not required.
Perfect. Good to be aware of. Sire, we put in the sire and the sire registration, so both their name and registration, dam and dam registration, so the mother and the mother's registration. And then we record just for in-house data. This isn't necessarily required, but we record a calving yeast score, which there is a spot to submit that usually,
I believe
but it may or may not be
Akaushi
required.
does like the calving yeast score and the birth weight.
Okay, perfect. So we have a spot for calving yeast and birth weight. We actually also record gestation, whether they came early or late or things like that. That's not required for submission. It's just a data point for us to know which ones are coming early versus late versus on time. A name for the animal. This is actually one point that I just remembered. On the names, with at a minimum, like with the Akaushi and the Angus associations, you can name them whatever you want. Like total control, absolutely no question whatsoever. With the Australian Wagyu and the American Wagyu Association, they do assign you a specific herd prefix.
Correct, and
so
a letter for the year.
Yes, exactly. Yep. So for example, ours is CGX. And so you'll notice that like we've ended up changing within the Akaushi Association and the Angus Association, starting with 2023 calves and going forward, they're all CGX, not because they have to be, but just for continuity across associations, because in the American Wagyu and the Australian Wagyu associations, it has to be that. So, you know.
And it can only be so long, I think, on the American Wagyu.
Right. Yeah, I think it has to be 4 letters or less, and it can't be taken by anyone else. So, like, for example, we tried to set up CG just for Christensen genetics. It was already taken in the American Wagyu Association. So, CGX, I mean, the X is basically just the play of, like, you know, genetics sounds as if there were an X. And so there's an X there.
I never knew that.
You know, that's what puts
so
that
creative.
in there. Yeah. So that's where that X comes from. And or just kind of to fill the gap, and or the fact that the Akaushi, at one point I was just talking with John, were once the marbling X line. And so CGX. Now that is the prefix on all of our cattle. And then we generally do, and again, from there you can do it however you prefer. Some people only do a prefix and then a number, which would be their tag, and then the letter code, which the letter code for this year is M, the international letter code, which lets you know what year the calf was born. We do put a name in there, which is generally going to tie to either the sire, if it's a bull, or the dam, if it's a cow, and it just helps us keep track of sire lines and dam lines, things like that. I'm marking what breed, because we do work with multiple registries. Service type is on there, meaning AI calf, natural service calf, or embryo transfer calf. Certificate, which is only applicable to the Angus Association, where to get it, you know,
which is helpful.
Is that Gen X? Is that ST? Is that ABS? Is that Select? Is that somebody else? AI date, as far as the breed date. Flush date, if it's an embryo transfer calf, what day was that embryo removed from the donor cow?
Which you need that information for American Wagyu. You don't need it for Akaushi.
Perfect.
And you do need it for Angus as well.
Yeah. That's good to know. See, these are the things, I just put them all in there, and then Lauren just makes it happen, which is really, really nice. And then there's just like magically this paper that I need, and I know I'm going to need it, but I'm not going to think about needing it till I need it.
Yep.
And then it's just already there.
It's great.
It's fantastic. Transferred, as far as an embryo transfer date, we put that in there. And then from there, all the rest of the data that we record is all just in-house production data, which would be, are they not registered, weaning weight date, yearling weight date, IMF and ribeye, scan date, and notes. So that's all the more there is to it. I mean, it's not been a wildly complex thing that's had to come together.
And you've had to add some things here and there where we go with the new association that requires something else. But other than that, it's been good.
I think just getting some kind of a system put together. And so that's, you know, I mean, ideally, like, you know, if you don't have a Lauren on your team, get a Lauren on your team, you know. Or,
great.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. That works out pretty good. But I think that's about all I have got. Lauren, is there anything in particular you'd like to add or throw in there?
I don't think so.
Perfect.
I like data entry, so it's kind of nice to do that. And I really appreciate that all the associations have been helpful and willing, and just it's been great.
I appreciate all the work that you do, Lauren. Thanks so much.
You bet.
Thanks for joining us for this episode of the Got Any Cows podcast. Be sure to subscribe, rate, and review wherever you get your podcasts, and visit us anytime at gotanycows.com.